JustinFREAKIN, the formidable voice in the culture. Hey Justin, are you trolling?
Come on, man.
This is the Troll Patrol, live with JustinFREAKIN.
Welcome to the Troll Patrol live. It's a freaking Thursday. What's going on, bitches? Tones as Sparkles. Good evening. Welcome. Curiouser was over here just a little bit ago, and I was like, I really don't want to do news tonight, but people count on me to do the news, so we gotta find out what that news be doing. And that news be doing some fucking crazy shit, I will tell you. This show is out of hand. Now, I say that every stream. I don't think it can get any crazier, but I promise you, tonight, it gets fucking crazy. Travis Scott was arrested just in like the last couple of hours. I don't even know what for. I don't even know what for yet. I assume it could be, what was it, the whatever world fucking concert that he put on a couple years ago, the festival. I wanted to call it the Juice World Festival, but Juice World is a different rapper. I don't think that had anything to do with each other. So I'd assume it's in connection to that, but who knows? It might be on RICO charges like Young Thug that we saw the other day. Justin Timberlake arrested. That motherfucker. So I saw DUI or DWI, and I'm like, well, was he drinking? No. He had all kinds of shit in his system. He was partying. Someone who's not partying tonight is this toddler who was trapped. What a horrible segue. A toddler who was trapped inside of a Tesla. And this prison worker in Georgia apparently had a relationship with one of the inmates till his oldest time. A hit and run suspect. And I believe this was Texas. So they hit and run. They were found to have a severed arm in their car. I assume it was the arm belonging to the hit and run victim. But you never know. It is Texas. USC students in California, or a USC student in California, will not face charges after stabbing a homeless man, apparently taken into custody yesterday. Not facing charges today, so you wonder whose wheels he greased. Or whose wheels the parents greased. We're going to go to Colorado, where a man proven to be unarmed when Aurora police shot him. Dude was fatally stabbed in Las Vegas while some kind of group was trying to rescue sex trafficking victims. This happened, I think, today. The FBI raided the mayor of Oakland's house, several other locations. How about that heat? We're going to talk a lot about the oppressive heat here in the United States, along with Tropical Storm Alberto hitting Mexico and Texas. Here is your meme of the day. I had to ask Sparkles yesterday, like, what does Hawk Tua mean? I'm finally in on the joke. I can get it now. And it's a good thing, too, because all the meme pages are all over this Hawk Tua shit. Not high enough for it. Yes, Aurora has all kinds of problems with their police. I believe that was where the, God, what was his name? The young Elijah McClain. I believe that's where Elijah McClain was killed. They gave him a fatal dose of ketamine. It is the sound of, she was apparently asked by one of the TikTok quiz show kind of dudes. Like, what do men want in a relationship or something like that? And she was like, Tua, you gotta spit on that thing. As I understand it. I've actually never seen the original video. I just saw a description of it. A Michigan State representative arrested last night chased a stripper out of his house brandishing a firearm. That's fantastic. Also, not the only politician we're going to talk about tonight. He had a stripper at his house. This was a judge in Georgia arrested at the club. Neil Frisk You damn right we're going to talk about Neil Frisk, a Republican. Arrested in Lansing. Well, we'll put that on the list. Right under Trump's spiritual advisor, turning out to be a kid diddler. Sure, no one is surprised by that. Turned out to be a goddamn diddler. We got several high-profile court decisions coming down from the Supreme Court here in its last week in session. A couple of years ago, they dropped the whole abolishing Roe v. Wade on us. What do they have in store for us this time? Granting Trump total immunity? Warlord, good evening. Calling me bald? The House Ethics Committee definitely trying to get back at Matt Gaetz. Releasing a scathing report. Something they don't usually do. It was very uncharacteristic for them. So I wonder if they're actually not going to do anything to Matt Gaetz. Because, you know, I saw Cenk was taking a lot of flack for it, saying that it was politically motivated. It's absolutely politically motivated. Now, Matt Gaetz probably still is a kid diddler, or at least a statutory rapist. I feel like calling a 17-year-old a kid is that they are technically a kid. Statutory rapist. I like that. No, I don't like statutory rape. No. Please don't clip that. Please don't clip that. Anyway, the Pentagon ran an anti-vaccine campaign under Trump during COVID. Six, good evening. The UN issues a scathing report about war crimes committed by Israel. Vladimir Putin and Kim Jong-un share a laugh in a car together. The Pentagon was asked if this new relationship between North Korea and Russia is sparking a new Cold War. Meanwhile, Putin was in Vietnam earlier today. We're going to talk about a train collision in Chile. We're going to talk about climate protesters painting Stonehenge. All that and a lot freaking more tonight on the Troll Patrol live. Good evening. Yeah, 25-year-old kind of is still a kid. DJ Dub, good evening, my friend. Glad to see everyone. Hold on. Holiday, good evening. Give me 1 second. I'm going to pour a cup of coffee. I decided 5-10 minutes before the stream that I wanted to drink coffee. And I've got everything ready. I just had to let the coffee steep in my French press. Clinically, good evening. So give me 1 second. Let me pour a cup of coffee. They had my favorite creamer again. Made me very happy. I really wanted to have its white chocolate mocha creamer. It's so fucking good. Oh, goddamn. Sorry. I need to get a little more high, then we'll find out what that news be doing. It is very white. It is a very white coffee. But it is, I like my coffee stronger of a morning. Wait. Oh no, I gotta mainline the sugar, Snicks. I need the sugar. I'm addicted to it. Oh my god, it's so good. I might have orgasm on stream. Sorry. Or you're welcome, whichever way you look at it.
I can't wait to have your cock in my mouth. I'm going to give you the blowjob of your life. Then I want you inside of me.
I'm not sure I've had Cuban coffee clinically. No, but I like to switch it up. I like to get different types of coffee all the time. I don't know if my beans have come from Cuba or not. I'd definitely try it. Don't know if I would try the coffee that, like, is it like a cat shits it out? Like they have the cats eat the beans and then they shit it. It's like one of the most expensive coffees in the world. I don't know if I would try that coffee. Palm civet. I don't know what a palm civet is. It's a type of cat though, isn't it? It looks like a kitty. Hold on. Tadpole, of course you would. I was just thinking. Asian palm civet. Am I even saying it right? Oh, that is not a cat. That is some kind of like raccoon otter type creature. Kind of opossum like creature. It's in the viverids family. I don't know what that means. But apparently they feed these little motherfuckers the beans and then they shit them out and they make coffee out of them, and I don't think I'd try that. And I love coffee. Native to South and Southeast Asia. That looks like a little otter there. It looks more like a... Yeah, no, I was very off calling it a cat. Oh, it's called a toddy cat, apparently. And amusing. Toddy cat and amusing. So maybe I wasn't so far off calling it cat. Why is the top question not about the coffee? It's a thing. It's only $30? Are you serious? On Amazon? Oh, that's 1 ounce. That's like 1 cup of it or something. Like one little pod. Pound of it is $300. Is it cheap or is it just 1 ounce? You're just getting one little thing of it for like 30. You're getting 1 cup for $30. It looks to be the same brand. 7 ounces of it for $100. Well, I mean, I paid like $20 for the bag of coffee I have right now, and it's a fucking amazing. I'm about to come sitting here drinking this coffee. So, I mean, if that shit is Aunt, good evening. I'm not going to come with my coffee. Ooh. Okay, really. Let's find out what that news be doing, because I can't be doing this anymore. We got a lot of shit to get to. I got a jam-packed stream tonight. So buckle up, buggeroos. Warlord, you still in here? I'm told it is very hot where you're at right now. Very, very hot.
Europe is sweltering. As the Northern Hemisphere marked the first day of summer on Thursday, countries across the continent endured yet another week of blistering temperatures. Record climbs already reached in recent days are suspected to have caused hundreds, if not thousands, of deaths across the continent and Asia. In Serbia, meteorologists forecast temperatures of around 104 degrees Fahrenheit this week, as winds from North Africa propelled a hot front across the Balkans. Health authorities declared a red weather alert and advised people not to venture outdoors. Vojislav Samnekovic is a Belgrade resident.
This is all most likely because of climate change, I think. Although I'm not really sure, I believe that this temperature is a result of climate change. I recently heard some professors discuss this topic. They predicted that by 2050, the environment here will become productive enough to support the cultivation of other plants, such as lemons in place of apples.
Emergency services
I feel like he might have been a plant.
said doctors intervened over 100 times overnight to treat people with health conditions. In Rome, health safety measures have been put in place for workers at a metro construction centre as the first intense heatwave of the summer hit the Italian peninsula. Workers tried to cool off with water in shaded areas and in front of fans as temperatures reached 102 Fahrenheit. A safety coordinator said that workers must have a break to refresh themselves every hour. The heat has also contributed to forest fires in Greece and Portugal, according to the US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Earth Observatory. And across Europe, there has been a spate of dead and missing tourists amid dangerous heat. On Monday, police said an American was found dead on the Greek island of Mathraki, the third such tourist death in a week.
That was the police, the LA County Sheriff's deputy that we did the story on last week, or on Sunday. Found dead!
Deadly heat waves are also scorching cities elsewhere in the world, a sign that climate change may again help to fuel record-breaking heat that could surpass last summer as the warmest in 2,000 years. The EU's Climate Change Monitoring Service says the heat waves are occurring against a backdrop of 12 consecutive months that have ranked as the warmest on record in year-on-year comparisons.
And we are already breaking records. We're going to talk about that here in a second, but first, we're going to go to Saudi Arabia, where maybe 1,000 pilgrims could have died in the extreme heat of the desert of Saudi Arabia. Minty, good evening. Hundreds of Muslim pilgrims have died in Mecca during the annual I was expecting Hajj. Bit of blistering heat wave. About 1.8 million Muslims have visited the holy city as temperatures reached 50 degrees Celsius, and it says reached.
The center has this huge operation room, state-of-the-art technologies, a lot of dashboards. We divide it into 3 sections. The first section look at surveillance, so early detection of any possible hazards, including heat strokes. We monitor the weather, we monitor the health of all pilgrims 24/7 from the moment they reach the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
122 degrees Fahrenheit. That was from the Saudi Health Ministry. And he had excellent English. Reuters have reported that at least 530 Egyptian pilgrims alone have died. So The number probably is more than 1,000. Thank God for enabling us to go to Hajj, and may God grant it to all Muslims. As for the heat, we get over it by drinking water and juices for the heat and the dehydration. May God grant it to all Muslims and forgive us of our sins. 120 fucking 2. Last night, I believe it was. Could have been the night before. I hope they have something that has electrolytes. It could have been the night before. Delhi recorded the hottest June night ever.
In India, the capital Delhi has experienced its hottest ever June night, with temperatures rising higher than normal by 6 degrees. One government hospital said it had seen 46 patients suffering from heat stroke this month alone. With more, here's our correspondent Samira Hussain.
Follow me. We're going to go into the critical care unit at this emergency ward in this government hospital here in central Delhi. And if you come in, you can see that half of the patients here are actually here because of heat stroke. I mean, this particular hospital primarily sees day laborers. So these are people that are outside, migrant workers that are in this heat, that are working outside. They also see a lot of elderly patients who are a lot more susceptible to these kinds of high temperatures. You know, and there are people just coming in and out of here every minute. This particular hospital has actually built a heat stroke unit, and they have these large baths and ice making machines so they can cool down people's temperatures really quickly. The head of emergency medicine here
handled clinically.
Just yesterday, for the first time in his career, he's recorded a temperature of 110 degrees in a patient. And remember that a normal body temperature is about 98 degrees. And when temperatures get that high, he said, well, that can lead to multiple organ failure. So it's really dangerous. Now, this hospital, over the last 2 days, has seen about 24 heat stroke patients come in, of which 5 have died. And that gives you a sense of just how critical the situation is. And remember, this is just one hospital in the capital of India, as the entire country is dealing with a heat wave.
This is just the first goddamn day of summer. It's the first day of summer. Is it even technically the first day of summer? Or is tomorrow the first day of summer? I'm going to do something I don't usually do. Tell us all about it, Lester.
Tonight, millions more are under heat alerts as the blanket of brutally hot air we've been watching settles into the Northeast, now stretching from Iowa to Maine with temperatures into the 90s. Fast forwarding us right into what feels like the middle of August. 50 to 75 record highs could be broken this weekend. Cities including Chicago, Washington, D.C. and Philadelphia expect to see at least 5 days at 90 degrees or higher. Many cities in the hot box are urgently warning residents of the health
You'll get yours, Tones.
Especially with the hottest temperatures still to come. The heat itself just part of the weather story we're watching tonight. In the West, wildfires are on the rampage, while the Texas coast is facing a tropical storm threat. Al Roker has the latest forecast, but let's start with Maggie Vespa.
Tonight, the extreme heat is expanding east.
It's hot. Really, really hot.
Goddamn right it
3
is.
million Americans from Iowa through Maine sweltering in record-shattering temps. Detroit, Cincinnati, and New York all hovering in the 90s for at least 5 days.
Every region of upstate is going to be hit with over 100-degree real field.
Officials in Massachusetts giving out local numbers for first responders after the state's 911 system went down for hours today.
We thought it was important, particularly with the heat.
The heat index already at 100 degrees in Chicago and D.C., 105 in Pittsburgh, where severe storms overnight knocked out power for tens of thousands. families desperate for relief.
It feels like it's harder to breathe.
When I step outside, it's like I'm in the oven or something.
Like you're in an oven.
Yes.
Out west, the heat is fueling more than 20 wildfires. Thousands evacuated from Ruidoso, New Mexico after 2 fast-moving fires merged nearby. Meanwhile, in Texas, increasing swells crashing onto the coast, with the potential tropical cyclone swirling in the warm Gulf waters. The heat costing more than ever. A new study out this month warning air conditioning costs this summer will hit a 10-year high, $719, as Americans try to keep homes cool amid severe, prolonged heat waves. Pittsburgh dad Sean Malloy says his electric bill soars $150 in the summer.
Yeah, whenever the heat goes, the skyrockets.
Is it tough on the budget?
Yes, it is.
Researchers calling it the cost of climate change.
Jezebel, good evening.
Heat waves become more common.
And Maggie Vespa joining us now from Pittsburgh. Maggie, this intense heat is now closing some schools here along the East Coast.
Yeah, Lester, that's right. Districts in Boston and Buffalo have announced they're switching to half days to send kids home before temperatures peak. And one district in Massachusetts ended the school year early, starting summer break today. Lester.
All right, Maggie, thanks. Let's bring in Al Roker. Al, this is just the start of the heat and an
ended early
storm system.
Absolutely, Lester. We got a lot going on. 73 million people from Iowa to New England, the Appalachians under heat watches or advisories. For tomorrow, records possible in Syracuse, Bangor, New Brunswick.
You know it's big when they bring out Al Roker for us.
Brunswick, Elkins, and Wilmington. And over the next 3 days, temperatures stay in the 90s. Air temperatures from Concord to Cincinnati to Chicago. And those feels like temperatures will be even higher. 9 million people at risk from Duluth down to Garden City. Thunderstorm watches and tornado watches up into Minnesota. And we've got tropical storm warnings now from Brownsville just to the south of Houston. What we're looking at, heavy rain due to that storm, which could become Alberto, anywhere from 7 to 10 inches from Brownsville to Bay City. Lester?
All right, Al, thank you. Thanks.
Shut up, Lester. It's a Lester overload.
And let's start with that
brush fire.
Fire you mentioned in Secaucus near the Turnpike and
in New York.
Transit lines complicated by that fire that's now under control and complicating the service issues they're having out there. News 4's Adam Harding joining us now with the very latest on this story. Adam.
Yeah, it's going to be a messy commute for
New Jersey
folks tonight. Coop, good evening to you. Fire department just leaving the scene right where we are, just off of Secaucus Road. But I want you to take a live look at the scene right over the head here in Secaucus by the Turnpike here in the area where this wildfire had really been burning now for a little over an hour.
Venus.
We just got an update a few minutes ago from police. They say that the fire has now been extinguished, but that does not mean yet we are out of the clear because there is still smoky conditions to contend with, and of course the ripple effects from what we have seen as it relates to backups from this wildfire earlier today. I want you to get a sense from earlier of what things looked like as this fire was raging out of control. Reports were that flames were upwards of 50 feet. The fire breaking out at around 3 o'clock. I'm told from the town supervisor right now, far too early to pinpoint a cause.
The whole country's on fire.
In mind, this area, like
literally and figuratively,
with a third or fourth day of extreme temperatures. In fact, we're in the middle of a heat wave in New Jersey, which certainly tends to see these types of incidents, these wildfires that can really erupt at a moment's notice because of the dry conditions that we are currently in right now. Again, that fire, which
the country's burning up, so we might as well burn one.
For much of the afternoon, that fire has now been extinguished, but still some hot spots that crews are working with. In fact, just moments ago behind us, we saw crews filling up their tanks just so they have more water in case any more hot spots pick up. Forest Service here in New Jersey tonight warning commuters to still expect the possibility of some smoke.
I wish I had more coffee.
And of course, compounding all of this, it's not happening just during the rush hour, but it also...
Oh, you want to talk about storms, Dougie?
Rail services in and around this area, Amtrak and NJ Transit, as you mentioned, of course, having a great difficulty in and around this area. Secaucus has its train terminal not far from where we are. So you all add this up together, and it is going to make for a messy evening commute that is now underway. Again, that massive wildfire along the side of the turn.
Yeah, this was just a few hours ago. You want some storms? That's the next thing we're talking about.
Tropical storm Alberto has unleashed fury tonight on Texas. The storm surge slamming seawalls in Galveston, tormenting Rockport with torrents of water, and rendering Gulfside communities in Freeport virtual lakes.
How high was the water?
Thigh high.
Yeah, at least mid-thigh. Yeah.
It looks high now.
It was hard to walk in, especially down this stretch. The current, you could feel it.
Vacationers Dustin Leeds and Christine Martin went to sleep on dry land, now surrounded by water.
There was no evacuation order, so nobody really knew how bad it was going to get.
And it's not just this development with dozens and dozens of homes underwater. All you got to do is cross the street and you have basically the exact same situation on the other side.
Do not walk in
Hundreds
floodwaters.
of people flooded out tonight. Challenging access for first responders.
Do not drive.
Team up with fire crews.
Trying to get your ambulance into a lot of these neighborhoods, how difficult is it?
It's very difficult. It's impossible. We wouldn't be able to drive.
I cannot stress that enough. If you cannot see the road, do not drive. You do not know how deep it is, and you may very well get carried away. It will be really bad for you and your car if you get carried away and you find yourself in a creek.
Drive into Treasure Island, which is right behind you. There's very few houses
Or a river.
to get to on our own.
Or an ocean.
In Surfside Beach, rescuers coming to the aid of stranded residents by boat as Texas prepped about 20 agencies for emergency action. The flooding in our south coming as heat and fire impact millions across the country. Raging New Mexico infernos have now claimed 2 lives, including a talented guitarist from Ruidoso, while a heat wave smothers about 65 million people from the Great Lakes to the Northeast. Few tonight feeling good about this weather nightmare.
We've just never been through anything like this before, and we're just going to have to take it one day at a time.
And Sam, looks like this isn't over yet.
No, Lester, it's not. We are expecting more rain, but the bigger issue...
I mean, if you know what you're doing, Minty.
Tomorrow for about 5:15 in the morning at a higher level than what we saw today, Lester. Down this road about a half mile is the bay. You cannot tell right now where the bay ends and the road starts.
Thanks for watching.
Shut up, Lester.
Breaking news and...
Yeah, is it even the first day of summer? Somebody correct me. Is today the first day of summer, or is tomorrow the first day of summer? It's barely even the first day of summer, and we got all this shit going on. Heat wave across the fucking globe. Oh shit, your baby brother's birthday. Happy birthday. Well, like, the solstice is tonight, right? So, like, that happens at midnight. So technically, like, today is... Yeah, it's like, it's a weird thing. I don't know, like, it's how you measure it or some shit. Oh, shit. Yeah, fucking happy birthday. Like, the June 21st is a cool birthday to have. Oh, it changes. Oh, that makes sense that it would, like, fucking fluctuate. It was today at 4:50 Eastern. So, like, we're in, like, the first 2 hours. 3 hours. I don't know. I can't do math.
You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
We're in the first, like, 3 hours of summer, and we're already setting all kinds of fucking heat records. Flooding in Nuevo Leon, Mexico, due to tropical storm Alberto. It's flooding in the desert. I saw a right winger that was like, when liberals are surprised it gets hot. It's just summertime. Like, it can't be just summertime if we're We're setting records every goddamn year. Every year it's the hottest on record. Warlord wants to just see the world burn. Are you just assuming you're not going to be around long enough to see, or are you counting on seeing the downfall of society? Oh, fuck. Climate activists vandalized the Stonehenge. Is it a monument? What would you call it? Ancient alien artifact?
At one of the world's most famous historic sites, 2 climate activists have been arrested after spraying orange powder on Stonehenge. Lama Hassan is on the scene for us. Good morning, Lama.
Yeah, good morning to you, Michael. Well, today is one of the most important days in the calendar for Stonehenge, which you can see right behind me because it is the summer solstice when the sun aligns with the stones, with celebrations starting tonight. It is open to the public today, but yesterday it was quite shocking to see those climate activists spray orange powder on some of the stones.
This morning, one of Britain's most famous historical sites covered in orange paint. Watch as 2 climate activists run up to the ancient stones at Stonehenge, spraying fire extinguishers containing orange powder, vandalizing the 5,000-year-old monument. Other visitors rushing to try to stop them. Officers arriving
maybe
on
just
the scene,
visible.
arresting the pair on
Yeah, to wash right off
the ancient monument.
I think it's pretty awful. I think there are better ways to protest, and I don't think damaging a historic site is the way to do it.
The activists from Just Stop
Mitochondria
for their high-profile protest,
Bagheera
making headlines for throwing tomato soup on Van Gogh's sunflowers in 2022, demanding the incoming British government end fossil fuel usage by 2030. The protest group claiming the paint was made of cornstarch, which will wash away in the rain. But experts say that's not necessarily true, that the ancient stones are porous and the cornstarch could have leached into the monoliths.
I think the assumption is it's not going to damage because, oh, they're giant stones and they're outside and they've been here for thousands and thousands of years. But that's a leap of faith, and I don't think it's one that can be guaranteed.
Well, English Heritage telling us that they are deeply saddened, but there is a sense of relief because they had been worried about the rain, but we've been blessed with this glorious weather, and they did manage to get all the powder off using specialized hand blowers, and they say there has been no visible damage, guys.
Well, that's some good news out of all of this, Lama. Thank you so much for that.
Yeah, Lama. If you're gonna eat someone's ass, I do recommend washing.
Life is too short to walk this earth for a crusty asshole. Wash your ass.
I would assume there's been some upkeep to them. I don't like. I really don't give a shit. Like I see why they did it because like I didn't even think about like, oh, the stones align on the solstice and shit. It's a good way to bring attention, I guess. It got people talking. Matt Walsh, who, once called me a formidable voice in the culture.
JustinFREAKIN is a formidable voice in the culture.
He said people should be executed because it was a crime against humanity. And I was like, industrial pollution is a crime against humanity. That's one of the reasons why, like, we're all suffering now. I hope some good came from it. Like, I don't give a shit about, like, rocks aren't, like, sacred or some shit. I wonder if the intense heat had anything to do with the train collision that happened earlier today. This is wild. 2 dead, 9 injured in a train collision in San Bernardo, Chile. Jesus. Guys, that's what happens when you mash your penises together.
Oh, yeah!
Zenated Nostra 29. What's up, my friend? Thank you for being a freaking follower. Yeah, give it the Hawk Tua. How does this not? Yes, we did. We talked about the pilgrims in the desert of Saudi Arabia. Possibly like 525 confirmed, possible 1,000 dead, maybe even more. Wild. We started with England and you weren't here. I gave you a shout out. We started and ended the climate section of the show with England. You come in on the ass end of it. Japan made the list. Apparently the U.S. has put Japan on the foreign exchange monitoring list.
Walk us through this here. Normally when we get these
wait, what?
These reports
wrong one.
Manipulation, all the talk is about China. How did Japan end up on this watch list?
We've had a really interesting 6 months, actually, with Federal Reserve interest rates being at their highest levels in 20 years. And we're seeing a wider interest rate differential from other central banks. The U.S. dollar has appreciated a lot. And what that's meant is that other smaller currencies like Japan and other Asian currencies have actually had to prop up their exchange rates to compete with the dollar. And that's interesting because usually they want to work down their exchange rate against the dollar to give a boost to their manufacturing sector. But that interest rate differential just got so wide that the yen plunged and the Japanese central bank was having to prop up its currency. And so that is actually not the reason that Japan was added to the monitoring list, because this report concluded its findings and collecting data before that yen intervention actually happened. The Treasury Department is citing bilateral trade deficits as the reason for adding them to the monitoring list.
Interesting. And of course, Japan's government did intervene last time. The dollar-yen rate got to about 160.17, and we're getting close to that point again. Romaine mentioned China. China remains on this list, doesn't it?
Absolutely. China is still on the list. They've been on the list for years. They've been designated a currency manipulator during the Trump era. That is no longer the tag that's being applied. The concern that the Biden Treasury Department has on China is transparency. They see some anomalies in the data that they presented to the U.S. Treasury Department. And so they're asking for more transparency into the currency markets in China.
I didn't understand any of that. I have no fucking idea what any of that meant, because I don't understand numbers.
You take your 33 and a third chance minus my 25% chance, and you got an 8 and a third chance of winning.
But it felt like it was important news, and I'm here to inform you about what's going on in the world. Russian President Vladimir Putin. We're going to do a little foreign affairs before we bring it back home and talk about, by the way, we're 1 week away from the presidential debate. This is going to be a lot of fucking fun. I can't wait. It's on CNN though, isn't it? I can't remember. Does CNN do copyright? Are they gonna take me down if I'm on YouTube? Are we gonna have to go to like Kick and DLive and shit? I'm not sure. I don't remember about CNN. It is going to be a shit show. Russian President Vladimir Putin. The presidential debate. Joe Biden versus Donald Trump is 1 week from tonight.
Come on, man.
so early. We're really kicking off the presidential season. I think he's gonna hold his own. I think right wingers have been underestimating him. Cause like, okay, yeah, he looked like he was dazing off, you know, on the stage, right? But we watched a clip of him talking to, like, Jimmy Kimmel was asking him questions, and he was very aware. He was responding to what Jimmy Kimmel was asking him. I think right wingers underestimate the motherfucker. He's probably gonna wipe the floor with Trump. But you're never gonna, people that are predisposed to be Trump supporters are never going to believe, you know, what they actually see in the debate. Fair enough. Biden is historical. Climate, and we encourage that. We encourage all kinds of protests. How many times have we seen Biden get protested by Palestinian supporters? Russian President Vladimir Putin was in Mox. Good evening. Was in Vietnam earlier today, looking to strengthen ties with that country. Fire resist.
Trong khuôn khổ chuyến thăm cấp nhà nước Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam của Tổng thống Liên bang Nga Владимир Путина в Социалистическую Республику Вьетнам будет принято совместное заявление Российской Федерации и Социалистического Владимировича Путина в Социалистическую Республику Вьетнам. Phó Thủ tướng Chính phủ nước Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam Lê Thành Long,
I would totally translate for you.
Dmitry Nikolaevich Chernyshenko, nước Cộng hòa xã hội chủ nghĩa Việt Nam và Liên bang и заместитель премьер-министра правительства Социалистической Вьетнам Ле Thanh Long обмениваются соглашением о сотрудничестве Социалистической Республики Вьетнам. Nguyen Hom Dien передает генеральному акционерного общества «Зарубежнефть» Сергею.
Was this? Oh, this was the Russian pool. Okay, so that was Russian that we were hearing. Apparently, visit going on currently.
Ради мира, стабильности, сотрудничества и развития в регионе и в мире. Для Вьетнама Российская Федерация всегда является одним из важнейших.
America does have a bunch of pig fuckers.
Традиционная дружба, искренность, политическая.
I mean, that's true. Yeah, there's no captions. There's no way I can. The only other story I see is like some retired general on CNN. And who gives a fuck what he has to say? But Vladimir Putin is in Vietnam right now. Yesterday, he signed a pact with Kim Jong-un of North Korea.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un are ushering in a new era of cooperation between their two countries. The leaders signed an extensive new pact Wednesday that includes a pledge to help each other if either country comes under attack, at a time when both face escalating tensions with the West.
This is a truly breathtaking document, reflecting the desire of the two countries not to stop there, but to raise our relations to a new qualitative level.
They're now cementing their alliance, their axis of evil, if you will.
With this new partnership, U.S. officials fear Russia will help North Korea enhance its nuclear weapons and missile programs, while North Korea keeps the Russian army supplied with weapons for its war in Ukraine. Putin and Kim have looked like old friends during this two-day summit. Driving around in a car, Putin gifted Kim, attending several ceremonies and even enjoying a concert.
The deepening cooperation between Russia and the DPRK is something that should be of concern. It's something that we're going to continue to keep an eye on.
Meanwhile, critics blame President Biden for not keeping his enemies closer.
Biden hasn't talked to Putin in over 2 years. You can't treat an adversary that way. So what he's done, bottom line, he solidified the alliance.
During their summit, Kim Jong-un reiterated his support for Russia's operations in Ukraine and praised the country's role in, quote, supporting strategic stability and balance in the world. In Washington, Rebecca Castor, Fox 32 Chicago.
Thank you, Rebecca. You saw a brief snippet of it, but I'm gonna give you the full propaganda. They're having a grand old time in that fucking car.
김정은 동지께서는 선물 받은 승용차에
It's a Russian-built limousine.
훌륭한 차를 선물로 받은 데 대하여 다시금 대통령 동지에게 사의를 표하시었습니다. 영빈관의 아름다운 구역에
The two took turns driving each other around in an Aurora's
포괄적인 전략적
car was a gift to Kim from Putin, who was greeted in North Korea with a lavish ceremony.
울라지미로 비치 푸틴 동지와 금수산 영빈관 총은
Kim gave a pair of pungs and dogs, a local breed, as they exchanged gifts.
사이를 표하면서 최대의 성의를 담아 마련한 선물을
Putin gave him a tea set and a dagger. I want to see the dogs again. They do look to be very pretty puppies. There you go. There's a good shot of them.
수산 영빈관 정원의 사의를 표시했습니다. 큰 사의를 표하면서 최대의
He can't be all bad if he loves dogs. Dogs are awesome.
성의를 담아 마련한 선물을 김정은 동지께 드렸습니다.
You can't go wrong with dogs.
김정은 동지와 존경하는 울라디미르 푸틴 동지 사이의 역사적인 평양 회담은 반제 자주를 이념적 기초하여 정의와 진리의 길로 줄기차게 최고 수뇌분들께서는
The two appeared to bond over animals as Kim fed carrots to a horse while Putin looked on.
상봉과 회담을 통하여 새 시대의 발전에 강력한 초석을 마련한 감회와 기쁨을 나누시었습니다.
I love dogs. Let's get this in. God, this is long too. We'll wrap up foreign affairs here with the scathing UN report on the war crimes being committed by Israel. I'd probably hit content warning on this.
UN Commission has found Israeli authorities responsible for carrying out war crimes and crimes against humanity in Gaza. The report says Israeli authorities committed the crimes of starvation, murder, intentional attacks against civilians, torture and outrages upon personal dignity in Gaza. Evacuation routes and designated safe areas were consistently targeted by Israeli forces that the Commission determined amounted to the forcible transfer of people. Israel imposed a total siege constituting collective punishment and denied Palestinians essential necessities such as water, food, electricity, fuel and humanitarian assistance for strategic and political purposes. The report says Israeli forces also committed acts of sexual violence, torture and inhuman treatment in the West Bank. Thus, it calls on the Israeli government to immediately implement a ceasefire, lift the siege of Gaza, ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid and cease targeting civilians. It also urges the Palestinian government and authorities in Gaza to cease all rocket attacks on Israel and unconditionally release all hostages. The Commission also found Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups responsible for war crimes, including deliberate targeting of civilians and taking captives. Marie Pillay, the chair of the UN's Commission of Inquiry, presented the report's findings to the Human Rights Council in Geneva.
The Israeli authorities are responsible for war crimes, crimes against humanity and violations of international humanitarian and human rights law, including extermination, intentionally directing attacks against civilians and civilian objects, murder or willful killing, using starvation as a method of war, forcible transfer, gender persecution targeting Palestinian men and boys, sexual and gender-based violence amounting to torture, and cruel or inhuman treatment.
Michael Mansfield is an international lawyer and joins us live from Birmingham in the UK. Good to have you with us. First of all, what do you make of this report?
Well, I think it's an extremely opportune and important report because, of course, it has to be remembered that in the background we have the ICC has, through its chief prosecutor, issued warrants for the arrest of various individuals.
Guys getting all salty in the chat.
What the UN committee has found. So it is the justification for what he was doing, if it was needed. It is needed because you had an automatic response from America, which was, as well as Israel, to criticize and almost punish the International Criminal Court for daring to even investigate, let alone issue warrants for their arrest. So it seems to me that this is an important report on that scale. Next, also, alongside, you have the International Court of Justice, where South Africa was litigating the whole issue of the crimes being committed, and particularly in the context of genocide and the Genocide Convention. Well, this report goes further than anything so far, and the court has been very reticent and has only talked about plausible rights.
Venus, thank you for handing out the gift sub.
This establishes, it seems to me, a very strong, not just prima facie case, but goes further than that.
Just in time, right before the commercial break.
A long way towards being conclusive. So I think it's a very important report when you look at the International Court of Justice. And finally, of course, the UN itself. If it's going to bring out these reports, it's got to do something about, not just call for a ceasefire, maybe it's got to consider the possibility of intervention here, which
Anonymous gifter
originally allowed for, in order to stabilize areas
for the gift sub
where warfare essentially was getting out of control.
But you say that, but do you think it will spark any actual action?
Well, immediate action, no, is the straight answer to you. It isn't.
No.
It is on another front. I left the action to last because I know the problems with the United Nations and the Security Council and the divisions and all the rest of it that we're familiar with between America, Russia, and the UK sitting on the fence, as usual. However, I think the importance of this report is to counter the really quite disgraceful attacks on the ICC doing its job and duty properly that has been brought about by the US, supported by Israel and the United Kingdom. What do they say? Oh, well, it doesn't help. I mean, that's about the weakest response you could imagine. So it seems to me this report can now be used by those who are approaching litigation of any kind, domestically or internationally, to say we have an authoritative report here. Seems to me it's authoritative, and you're not going to do much better than this. And it seems to me that should be fueling all the initiatives, including the other possibility on a domestic front of the BDS campaign, where people are boycotting and divesting and sanctioning a country which is involved, Israel in particular, and not the only one, obviously, but Israel mainly is focusing on, well, the word's been used, extermination.
If this is still going on in the fall, the colleges are going to be hotbeds. One last story here before we go to the commercial break. A pro-Palestinian protester is apparently being targeted in New York, hunted by the NYPD.
Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. The time 11:15 over on the East Coast and 8:15 on the West Coast. An alert out of New York City right now as police are on the hunt for a Gaza war protester as anti-Semitic incidents continue to rise in the city amid Israel's war against Hamas. I do want to bring in Fox's CB Cotton joining us now live with the latest information here. Good morning, CB. Thanks for being here with us.
Hi, Josh. Good morning. Thanks for having me. So this anti-Israel protester who called on Zionists to identify themselves is not only wanted for an attempted coercion charge, he could also face a hate crime charge, according to my police sources. So the NYPD released a photo of the unidentified man. Take a look at your screen. You can see him there. He's behind those dark sunglasses. There's a cloth draped over his shoulder with what appears to be the pattern of a Palestinian keffiyeh scarf, and the color colors of the Palestinian flag. Police believe he was the one captured in the now viral moment, leading protesters in a chant on the New York City subway back on June 10th. That was an anti-Semitic chant, and police sources tell me at least one subway rider filed a complaint in response to this. Watch.
Raise your hands if you're a Zionist! Raise your hands if you're a Zionist! This is your chance to get out! This is your chance to get out!
That's all he did? Seriously, Thumb. That's all he did? Yeah, fuck that. Seriously. Anyway, if you're watching on Twitch, we're going to have to take a commercial break. Unless you're subbed. Then we're going to sit here and get high if you're subbed. We're going to do 3 minutes of commercials. Get that out of the way. When we come back, we're going to talk about Biden and Trump. The debate is a week away. 1 week from tonight. We're going to preview the debate. We're going to get you caught up on all the news. We're going to talk about the Supreme Court. And then we're going to do, we got a hell of a lot of crime stories. Buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. So if you're watching on Twitch, get your 3 minutes out of the way. Go refill your drink. Take a pee-pee. We'll be here waiting on you when you get back. All right. Really wish I'd made more coffee. I might take a pee-pee before we get started, because I might regret it if I don't. And I'll be right back.
Hi, I'm JustinFREAKIN. I'm a leftist broadcaster and comedian, not liberal, leftist. And despite what you may have heard from right-wing propaganda, George Soros isn't handing out Soros bucks and funding people like me. There are no Koch brothers, Mercers, or any number of right-wing think tanks funding content on the left side of the spectrum the way they fund people like Ben Shapiro, Dave Rubin, and Dennis Prager. And YouTube doesn't monetize videos that are controversial or deal with politics unless you're someone like Steven Crowder. So this is an ultimatum. Become a patron. Support my Patreon, or I'm going to become a right-winger and get some of that easy money. You know for a fact that I could be bigger than Charlie Kirk or Jesse Lee Peterson.
Amazing!
All I have to do is talk about how I used to be an SJW snowflake, but the left went too far with their cultural Marxism, and Republicans are stupid enough to buy it, even though this video exists. And you know I'm right, so give me your money or I'm selling you out.
Yeah. Did it ever even play the ads? Now it played the ads. Fucking Twitch over here. Anyway, I'm back with you guys. Let's get high. We got another 3 minutes to go. Yes, I packed another one. I didn't know if I'd packed one yet or not. I was gonna be bummed if it wasn't ready to go.
You live in sexual anarchy?
We're going to talk about some sexual anarchy tonight. At least one story is sexual in nature. Justin Timberlake had Molly in his system, so I'm assuming he was doing something sexual. Because why are you going to do Molly if you're you're not going to get your groove on? Drug you fuck on. Show a cat. Which one do you have a request? All three of them are right here beside me. All three are very handy. Smokey is right there. You can almost see him. I for some reason I get horny on this shit. Oh, I saw a concert one time, and it's all I could think about. I couldn't imagine doing it by myself. Thank you. I like to think all three of them are beautiful in their own way. They're all handsome boys. That was, of course, Smokey Bong. The Maynard James kitten and a Soccer. You can maybe barely see Socks, but turn the camera just a little bit. He's right there. You can kind of see one of his socks. He's a black blob on the couch, and you can see one of his paws. Shelly, good evening. All of his paws are white. That's why he was named Socks when I got him. You know, I call him Socrates, and Socks for short, because Socks is kind of a generic name, and I'm not a generic person. So he's Socrates, but we call him Socks, and he looks like he has socks on. He's very handsome, and he is everyone's favorite cat. Like, the stream is more familiar with Smokey because he gets on my lap all the time and shit. Oh hell yeah! That didn't feel like 3 minutes, but I've been rambling for a while. Thank you, Aunt. Oh, fuck. No, I didn't even... Did Clinton have a cat? I did not know that. But like, you know, the shit I don't know could fill a fucking warehouse, right? Do you want more cat lore? We can totally do it. The first time I saw Smokey was wild, right? So, like, and knowing what I know now, dude brought them, and, like, Socks was the one that he kept locked up, and Smokey was, like, just sitting on the arm of the car, and I couldn't. Because, like, Smokey make a run for it. Smokey goes feral outside. I thought I was going to be able to take him out on a leash and use him to like, pick up girls. I used to have a fenced-in back patio. And they would go out on the patio. Socks didn't go out there a lot, but, like, if it was the perfect temperature, if it was, like, 75... There's a nice breeze. He'd go out and sit on the back patio. Then when we stayed with Curiouser, she had she's like way back up in the hills, and like there's a whole, you know, acres of yard and shit. And she had a little courtyard. And she let her cats go out, and I just let them go out as well. And Maynard and Socks are very well behaved. And they will come and knock at the door when they're ready to come back in and shit. If they get locked out of the house or, you know, the door gets shut. Smokey goes fucking feral. And one day I was just sitting there and Smokey was right beside me. He gets up and walks away and the door was open. And we didn't see him for 8 days. We had to use a wild animal trap. And one night, I don't remember, I think it was the Freak Show. After the Freak Show, I got off and went out and looked at the trap, and he was in it. And I was like, Smokey! And he still looked wild for the first, like, couple of hours he was back in the house. He it's insane. I was like, why didn't you come back? Like, because I thought I was gonna be able to, trust him the most, and I could take him out and stuff. Because like he'll come on command and shit. Like I can usually get him to come 95% of the time. He will come and do exactly what I want. So like, and he's so docile. I can just pick him up, hold him like a little baby. You guys have seen me do it on the stream before. He's gone somewhere. I would demonstrate. Well, I just thought from his personality inside that I'd be able to put him on a leash and take him outside. No, he goes buck fucking wild, and he'll want to roll around in the dirt, and you can't lead him along or anything. He will not do it. It's insane. Anyway, that's my cats. Yeah, on a leash, he's not good. I'll take him out because he likes being outside, and I hate that. Like the back patio was so cool. He loved the patio. He went outside all the fucking time. He knocked on the door and got me to let him outside all the fucking time. There he is. Sorry about that. I apparently dislodged the XLR cord. Fix that right up. Did you know that the Pentagon ran... Oh, Freedom, good evening. Did you know that the Pentagon ran a secret anti-vaccination campaign to try to undermine China?
Has revealed the U.S. military ran a secret anti-vaccination campaign at the height of the pandemic in the Philippines and other nations in an effort to sow doubt about COVID vaccines made by China. The clandestine Pentagon campaign began in 2020 under Donald Trump and continued into mid-2021 after President Biden took office. The Pentagon set up numerous fake social media accounts on multiple platforms to target audiences in the Philippines, Central Asia, and the Middle East. The campaign also aimed to discredit masks and test kits made in China. According to Reuters, the secret operation was launched to counter what it perceived as China's growing influence in the Philippines and other countries. One senior military officer involved in the campaign told Reuters, "We weren't looking at this from a public health perspective. We were looking at how we could drag China through the mud," they said. For more, we're joined by the reporter who broke the story. Joel Schechtman is an award-winning investigative journalist who's written for Reuters and the Wall Street Journal on national security, intelligence, and cyber espionage. His recent Reuters piece is headlined, "Pentagon Ran Secret Anti-Vax Campaign to Undermine China During the Pandemic." Joining us now from Washington, D.C., Joel, thanks so much for being with us. Lay out your major findings. I mean, this is just explosive, what you have discovered.
So basically what we found was that when COVID-19 broke out in January, February 2020, obviously the entire world was not prepared for what was going to happen next. But in certain areas of the national security establishment in Washington, immediately they saw this through the kind of prism of this kind of new Cold War with China, right? And the the issue is that had already been heating up. And there's this idea in Washington now that China and Russia have been just very successful with these kind of information operations, this kind of propaganda campaigns of the type that the U.S. used to also do a lot during the Cold War. But there's this idea that Russia and China had really gotten ahead of the United States in the years since the Cold War. And you know, in 2016, you have the hacking and leaking during the election to affect the outcome of the election. And there's this idea that China has really been like getting ahead in that sphere as well, in like influencing allies and spreading misinformation. And that's the backdrop to what happened in 2020, where, you know, COVID breaks out, and immediately, or within a few months of the outbreak, China starts spinning this narrative that not only was COVID not created in China, but that actually was brought to China by the United States military. That maybe it came out of Fort Detrick, or maybe it came through a military service member who was participating in a sports competition there. Then they start spreading that narrative, and it starts. And you know, from the Pentagon perspective, you know, there was just this like tremendous anger that this narrative was starting to take hold in countries, you know, like the Philippines and Southeast Asia, and so they felt that they had to strike back. And the other thing that was going on at that period was that even in the early days of the pandemic, the U.S. was starting to come up with a vaccine response, but one that was going to really put like America first. It was a very like America first vaccine policy, whereas very, very early in the pandemic, China came out publicly and said that it was going to try to make its vaccines publicly available in the developing world, right? And all of this starts to play out in the Philippines, which is a country that traditionally was a very close U.S. ally, right? And traditionally, it's a very close U.S. ally, but had started to move away under President Duterte, had started to move away from the United States and started to move towards China anyway. And then the pandemic breaks out, and you know, Duterte cuts this deal with China that it's going to be the first in line for China's vaccine that's under development. And at the same time, Duterte says, okay, I'm going to also get rid of these old U.S. military agreements that we have.
It's so petty.
And so within the Pentagon, within Washington, there was this fear that they were going to lose the Philippines, so to speak. And so they launched this secret propaganda campaign in the Philippines and elsewhere in Southeast Asia to try to denigrate China's vaccine. And what made it particularly controversial, I think, or controversial now, right, to look back at it in hindsight, is that it's not that the U.S. was secretly, not just that the U.S. was secretly denigrating a vaccine at the height of the COVID pandemic, which by itself is kind of problematic, but it was
kind of problematic
time that no other vaccine was going to be available in the foreseeable future, right? Like the United States' vaccines did not become widely available in the Philippines for like 10 months, for 10 months after they got the Chinese one. So the Chinese one was really the only game in town in the Philippines for like almost the first year of, for almost an entire year. And so, you know, you have Sinovac, which is really the only one that most Filipinos were able to access. And the Pentagon was using these kind of secret social media accounts on Twitter and Facebook to say that this vaccine was harmful, that it was dangerous, that it was at least ineffective, and that, you know, China caused the virus to start with. So ergo, you know, how can you trust any vaccine that comes out of the country that created the virus itself, right? And they were using these kind of fake accounts that sort of purported to be Filipinos. And
see how much of the propaganda that we hear about China is, you know, just inflated or completely made up by the U.S. Because I've told this story before. I've had conversations with Chinese people, and they say China is nothing like the U.S. government portrays it. But if I'm having a conversation with a Chinese person, like this was when I was in college, they were like exchange students, they're likely to be upper middle class. or possibly even rich. So it does take, like, who knows what it's like to be a lower class, a working class, a minority class in China. So it's hard to say. I'm sure they commit atrocities, because all fucking countries do. Ours sure as fuck does. Much like that's an atrocity. Spreading vaccine misinformation will probably got thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people killed, millions. Speaking of atrocities, we have an atrocious Supreme Court.
Multiple rulings today, but the cases involving immunity for Donald Trump, gun rights, and abortions during medical emergencies, well, all those are still pending.
That's right. The justices did uphold a Trump-era tax on overseas investments. This decision came down 7-2, rejecting an argument from a Washington state couple who challenged a $15,000 tax bill they received for an investment in an India-based company.
CBS News chief legal correspondent Jan Crawford has been following all of the rulings closely for us from our Washington bureau. So, Jan, let's talk about this case. Walk us through it and how the justices came to their decision.
Well, I mean, first of all, I think today we got 4 cases, and I think today really shows how the court does a whole lot of other cases that are very technical and apply to only a few people, but they're very important for those few people. So we'll summarize this one really briefly, because I think what's notable about this case is what the court did not do. This was a case that presented the court with an opportunity to basically upend large portions of the U.S. tax code if they had sided with this couple in the way that business groups were really pushing. They'd gone after a 2017 law that was signed into effect by then President Trump that allowed certain taxation of foreign profits of U.S. companies. Okay, well, why is that important? Why is everyone so up in arms about this case potentially? The argument was, if the court went along with this sweeping argument, that it could have gotten at other forms of taxation that are really important for the U.S. Treasury, and it also could have gone at a proposed wealth tax, which is a proposed tax for the richest Americans that would get at some of their stock holdings and other assets, which now are typically only taxed once they're sold. So this was one of those cases that had a lot of like, ooh, if the court does this, but they didn't. So now we're just sitting here waiting to see what they might do tomorrow, because like you said, the major cases of this term, there are several of them that we're still waiting, including those 2 that would really directly affect then President Donald Trump.
And let's speak.
I can't imagine they are going to rule that Trump has immunity. Can't possibly imagine. They just waited until the absolute last minute in order to help him.
About those, Jan, because one of the most anticipated decisions relates to Trump's claim of presidential immunity. When might we expect a ruling there, and what are the key points based on the oral arguments we heard of the justices weighing?
Oh, man, Errol, I wish we knew when we were getting that ruling. It would make all of our lives a lot better, a lot easier. I know. So, because as you know, we know that we have decisions tomorrow, but we never know what they are until the court's actually saying, here's the decision. So we'll be waiting tomorrow at 10 o'clock to see if we're going to get that decision in the case that asks whether Trump can be prosecuted for his actions around January 6th or whether he has some immunity. So that'll directly affect Special Counsel Jack Smith's efforts to bring him to trial for January 6th and obstruction of the 2020 presidential campaign. What we do know is that the court typically finishes its business by the end of June, early July. So we do know that we should get a decision in this case by the end of next week, if they finish by the end of June, or by the following week. I think most people expect that at the very latest they'll be done before the 4th of July.
All right, Jan Crawford for us there in D.C. Thanks, Jan.
I can't imagine that they side with Trump. They're just waiting until the absolute last minute. It's an absurd notion that a president can try to overturn an election. Yet sycophant for Trump now, Senator Old Lady Graham, called Joe Biden a felon, which is odd.
Graham was on Fox last night. This just to change the subject completely, but on the South Carolina tip here, he made this accusation about President Biden's border policies. Take a listen.
The next time you hear the word felon in this election, I think the felon in this election is Joe Biden. What he's doing to the country is criminal. The crime in
there is literally one felon in this presidential race.
This election cycle is the crime of Joe Biden against the American people. What happened to Trump in New York was a bunch of BS.
What do you think?
I mean, Joe Biden has not been convicted or charged with a felony, so I'm a little confused where he's coming from.
We know.
The FBI put out stats not too long ago that the crime rate's actually going down, so I'm very confused what he's talking about, but I think...
I just wanted to see Lindsey Graham say that. Trump won the coin toss. One week from today, Trump will get the final say at the debate.
Week's time, the first presidential debate with Biden and Trump on the stage, speaking to voters ahead of this crucial November election. We're learning new details about some of the guidelines, some of the protocols in place for this debate in Atlanta, Georgia on the 27th. This a tweet there from Shannon Breen talking about Trump will have the final word thanks to a coin flip. Of course, Biden potentially won this, but he chose the right portion of the screen, the right podium over the left podium, and that giving Trump the final word of this as well.
Wait a minute. Okay, what?
Latest.
So apparently, Biden won the coin flip and gave Trump the final word. Okay.
Discussions, the guidelines in place as we are now a week out from this debate. I want to be joined by now Richard Benedetto, a lecturer, a professor over at American University, also former White House correspondent for USA Today. Richard, thank you so much for joining us here.
I don't know. That's kind of a smart move because their campaign strategy is to remind everybody what a loathsome individual Trump is. And it probably will work. I'm just saying. So, I mean, if that's the strategy you're employing with your campaign, let Trump be the last word, be the last thing everybody remembers. It's how fucking horrible he is, as opposed to how mediocre Biden is. Could be a good strategy.
On live now from Fox. And can you just maybe summarize a little bit a week out, how important are presidential debates in terms of the general election coming up in November?
Well, presidential debates can be quite important, especially if somebody messes up. Yeah. Usually if somebody messes up or does something eccentric, it'll get an awful lot of publicity, even though people may not be watching the debate, but the news itself. We know from past experience that when there's an incumbent president, usually the people who are people who are of the party of the incumbent president will be watched more heavily than the people who are of the party of the challenge. In the case of Donald Trump, who has been a president already, I would think that both sides are going to be very, very interested in this primary or in this debate, and as a result, you're going to see a lot of attention being paid.
Yeah, that is very, very true, as it will make headlines both on the night and after, based on what they say, and maybe any potential flubs there from either the current president or the former president. I do want to ask you about potentially Trump having the final word in this debate. How big of a move is that to him have the last say, the last thing people hear from this debate?
Well, I think that's a positive for him. He lucked into it. You know, it was a coin flip thing, yes, that he got it to be the last speaker. But it's a good thing for him because he gets the last word, and you know he probably will have something prepared to leave the viewers with as the camera fades away. But he's going to be pretty well prepared for that last remark. Maybe, but he's the kind of guy who's not very easily scripted. And something that Biden might have said prior to that may cause him to go off his script and address something else.
Yeah, and you mentioned the scripted portion, and that's another component of this, as they won't be allowed.
Trump's just going to spout off at the mouth the whole time anyway.
Can you give me a sense of history? How common is that, and maybe who does it benefit more?
It's not very common to not have any notes. Some people usually, but they don't want the candidates or the incumbent president does not want to be seen, looking up things as they're possibly in the debate. They want to look like they're well prepared, so that having no notes in front of them is probably a good thing for both sides. Although, we're concerned about whether President Biden is able to deal without notes, because we see him even when he does press briefings, the few that he does, he's always referring to notes, and he even is referring to questions that he already has had in advance. Which in the debates, you're not going to have that.
Yeah, that is a very good point as well. And
shut up. That's what we have to look forward to a week from now. We're gonna get into the crime section of the show with a smooth transition here. We're going to talk about Donald Trump's spiritual advisor, who turned out to be a goddamn diddler.
One of the ways Donald Trump won the 2016 election was through the complete embrace of him by evangelicals, both the base and pastors and leaders in that movement. One of the most prominent is a pastor named Robert Morris. He founded a Texas megachurch in Southlake, Texas. Morris was also a spiritual advisor to Trump while he was in the White House. Here he is in the Rose Garden in 2020, just a few rows behind where then Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett's family
admits to inappropriate sexual behavior with a child.
And here is Trump visiting Morris's church earlier that summer, giving his personal assessment.
He's a creepy looking fuck.
I want to thank Pastors Robert Morris and Steve Dolan. They're great people. Great people with a great reputation, I have to say that. Great reputation. And Gateway Church, the team has been incredible in hosting us. And I'd now like to ask Pastor Morris and Bishop Jackson to lead us in prayer.
You did a really square head.
Just resigned from his church following allegations that he sexually abused a child.
More like a rectangle head.
In a statement to an evangelical news site, Morris said he was involved in an inappropriate sexual behavior with a
This guy looks like a pilled cantaloupe.
Words. He didn't mention that the young lady in question was a 12-year-old girl. In his statement, Trump's one-time spiritual advisor admitted he continued to molest the child on, quote, several occasions over the next few years. Mike Hixenbaugh is a senior investigator
God damn.
for NBC News who's been all over the story. He writes about Pastor Morris in his book, They Came for the Schools.
It's always a book plug.
Identity and the New War for America's Classrooms. And he joins me now. Mike, this is something that happened a long time ago that we are learning about now. Take us through how this came out.
Well, last week, the survivor in this case, Cindy Clemenshire, who has tried telling the story in different ways for years, came forward in a blog post and spelled out in very clear detail how when she was 12 years old on Christmas in 1982, Pastor Morris, who was a family friend then, a young traveling evangelist, invited her into his room, where he was at the guest room at her house, and proceeded to molest her, the first of several instances where he would do that over the next 4.5 years. And as you mentioned in the lead-in, Pastor Morris and Gateway Church responded initially by saying, this is an old sin. Pastor Morris has addressed this moral failure of this relationship with a young lady. And, he's repented, and this has been taken care of. Flash forward a few days, there was a lot of pressure around this when people started pointing out, yeah, the young lady was 12, that's a child. And yesterday he resigned from the church that he founded 20 plus years ago.
Now, he had been telling a sort of story about a kind of redemption arc, about stepping away from the ministry in the 1980s because he had been confronted by the then girl's father at that time. Is that right?
That's right. And I've been talking with, former Gateway members and former pastors at the church. They talk about how he talked about this story all the time. And it became kind of like a signature part of his biography, that he had this moral failing when he was young. And it was around sexual immorality with, again, a young lady. In some tellings, he would describe himself almost as a victim, saying that the young lady had a Jezebel spirit and had tempted him, and in fact that she was the one that made it continue. He tried to stop it, and she made it continue. So he tells these stories as a way of saying you should be open about your sin and come forward. But in reality, we now know he was covering and papering over the reality of child sexual abuse, which is, a crime.
Fucking wow. He also has been quite a prominent member of the evangelical movement, politically influential. I mean, this is not just there are obviously many evangelical pastors, thousands, probably tens of thousands in this country. This is a particularly connected and powerful individual.
Absolutely. Trump's spiritual advisor. He's really leaned into the idea of, advocating for a restoration of Christian morality in America through Republican politics. And so you see that with him inviting Glenn Beck to speak from the pulpit.
He looks like a piece of shit.
Being aligned with Donald Trump. I write about extensively in the book. He's also gotten very engaged over the last few years with kind of warning about the dangers children face in schools. And this, I want to emphasize this.
Of course.
The survivor here in this case, Cindy, doesn't want this story to become just about politics. She's very primarily concerned with Robert Morris not being in leadership and kind of attacking the culture that allows this to permeate. But at the same time, lots of other people have watched as people like Robert Morris have warned that teachers and school librarians are a danger to children because, and have used the language that they're grooming children because they have books on their shelves. Morris has preached about that from the pulpit. And endorse specific school board candidates who would fight against, this Satan's work in school libraries. People who saw that play out are really frustrated and outraged now, knowing, he's pointing at school librarians. Some of these books that were being targeted actually are literature that describe grooming as a way of helping kids understand what warning signs to watch out for. And so to have him be standing in the pulpit warning about this, given his history, has been, a lot really difficult for people to process. And there's a lot of anger, both among survivors and educators who've been targeted by this rhetoric.
Yeah, I would note.
I don't trust any preacher. Just saying. Age of consent should probably be like some sort of sliding scale. Like 18-year-olds should be able to bang each other. 18-year-old and a 16-year-old that you can go to high school together. But like once you're over 20, you can't bang a 16-year-old. Like that's weird. The mayor of Oakland got raided by the FBI.
And we start with that breaking news happening right now in Oakland. The FBI has raided a home associated with Oakland Mayor Shintao. Within the last hour, agents left carrying boxes. You see them right there out of the home. And sources are now telling ABC 7 News this may be a part of a larger raid involving several other locations across the city of Oakland. Thanks for joining us on this busy news day. I'm Julian Glover.
And I'm Kristen Z. The home associated with Mayor Shintao is on Maiden Lane in Oakland, just off of Highway 13. And and that's the Mormon temple, or near it. And that's where ABC 7 News reporter Lena Howland is. She was one of the first reporters there this morning.
Lena, we know you've been working the story throughout the morning. What have you been hearing so far about the purpose of this FBI raid?
You don't see him there, right?
Well, Julian and Kristen, I'm standing outside of the home of Oakland Mayor Sheng Tao. That's according to property records and also neighbors. Now, only about 1 hour ago, we saw FBI officials leaving the scene with a number of items. Now, take a look at this video taken less than 1 hour ago, shortly after 10 o'clock this morning. We saw several FBI officers leaving Tao's home carrying out boxes, plastic tubs, and trash bags. They quickly got into 4 unmarked cars and left the scene in less than 3 minutes. Sources tell ABC News the case involves the FBI, IRS, and Postal Service. The National Latino Police Officers Association president is staying in the house next door while she's here visiting from San Diego. She woke up to officers arriving on scene.
And about 6 o'clock this morning, I heard a male voice yelling to open the door, open the door. I assumed it was a domestic violence. It was maybe a man who was put out of his house. A couple hours later, looked out the window and saw multiple federal vehicles moving their vehicles into the driveway, agents gloved up, going in and out of the residence.
A spokesperson for the FBI issued a statement this morning saying the FBI is conducting court-authorized law enforcement activity on Maiden Lane. We are unable to provide additional information at this time. We have reached out to the mayor's office but have not heard back yet. I'm now
what you got to
joined
say,
by
Mayor?
7 insider Phil Matier. And Phil, I know you have also been working this story all morning long, talking with your sources.
You fuckers ain't got nothing.
In law enforcement, what else have you learned?
This dude look like Mean Gene over here.
Locations, at least, that the FBI hit with search warrants this morning that went in. One is possibly City Hall. There may be another city official involved. One here, and one at the home of one of the owners and the family that owns the Cal Waste, the recycling service for Oakland. So given the fact that the IRS is involved and the post office involved, we may be looking at sort of some financial questions.
Let me tell you something, brother.
Possibly the target.
Okay. And
they ain't got nothing. They're just trying to fill a newscast. They even said it was a busy news day. I ain't got time for you guys to like dilly-dally on that story. Not the only politician getting arrested. Lansing police arrested Michigan Representative Neil Frisk Thursday morning in Lansing. Police were dispatched to the 2100 block near Aurelius Road. Lansing police officers arrived. They said they found all the parties involved, but at this time they're only naming Frisk. This story is clunky as fuck. Well, they're trying to fill a news story because they ain't got enough details. Ingham County prosecuting attorney John DeWayne says the office has not received a warrant request from any police agency and is unable to comment. That's all we know is he got arrested. There's some fucking bug flying around. Gunshots were apparently involved. I got another mayor story. I don't know where this one's at. This is in Louisiana. The mayor of New Orleans, Louisiana, has lost a court battle over a woman who took her photo.
I think it's a great day for the Constitution. I think it's a great day for the citizens in New Orleans.
That's reaction from the attorney who prevailed over Mayor Cantrell in court today. On paper, it looked like a mismatch between Mayor Cantrell against an ordinary citizen who took her picture with her police bodyguard. But after a hearing in civil court today, the citizen prevailed and the mayor's request for a restraining order and claims of harassment were dismissed. The investigative reporter Mike Pearlstein was in
Take a picture of the mayor.
Battle initiated by the mayor, now joining us in studio. Mike, what's next on this case?
Well, Charisse, the restraining order is dead, but there are still high-stakes issues for Cantrell, as well as Jeffrey Vappy, the NOPD bodyguard, who was recently removed from the mayor's security detail after these pictures surfaced.
It's very hard for me to now live where I live.
Was she fucking him?
From the things around me and from people that may retaliate because she is the mayor of New Orleans.
That's Ann Bro, the woman who took these pictures of the mayor and her police bodyguard Jeffrey Vappy from her apartment in the Pontalba in April.
Oh, she's fucking him.
Vappy being removed from the mayor's security team following a complaint by the Metropolitan Crime Commission.
When they see something out of the ordinary or they see something that should be...
I'm just saying. She's having a lunch with her head of security. She's totally having an inappropriate relationship, probably charging it to the city.
Ann Bro, the woman who took these pictures of the mayor and her police bodyguard Jeffrey Vappy from her apartment in the Pontalba in April. The photos led to Vappy being removed from the mayor.
Well, Flash, you look at that picture and you tell me she's fucking him. Look at them. It looks like it's midday. They're having wine.
Police bodyguard Jeffrey Vappy from her apartment in the Pontalba in April. The photos led to Vappy being removed from the mayor's security team following a complaint by the Metropolitan Crime Commission.
When they see something out of the ordinary or they see something that should be addressed publicly, especially when you're talking about city employees fraternizing with the mayor, an already precarious position, that no one is above the law.
Today, Civil Court Judge Bernadette D'Souza dismissed
I didn't want to say anything
for a restraining order that alleged harassment and stalking by Bro.
This was never about me stalking the mayor or chasing the mayor. She's been my neighbor for quite some time. This was about an officer of the law doing something I thought he shouldn't be doing.
Bro and her attorney Justin Schmidt are still seeking answers as to how the mayor obtained Bro's social security number and a driver's license photo, information usually only accessible by law enforcement. Cantrell was subpoenaed for court today, but did not appear.
I think we had a lot of questions that she would have had difficulty answering. I think she would have been very embarrassed.
And questions about Vappy's activities while on duty remain under internal investigation and have expanded to include this 2022 photo of he and Cantrell drinking wine at another French Quarter bar.
Jeffrey Vappy's got a glass of wine while he's holding a gun on the clock
live in
as a city
sexual
employee.
anarchy?
That has all kind of ramifications of trouble.
Cantrell's attorney Eddie Castang did not address the lingering questions for the mayor.
The mayor accepts the ruling of the court and is ready to move on.
Now, the mayor's office issued a statement that reads in part, now that this legal proceeding has taken place, there is greater awareness that the mayor needs to be treated with respect and dignity and be able to have a safe quality of life for herself and her family. Charisse?
All right, Mike, thank you. Federal
I'm gonna have to hit the content warning for this one. If you are not into the violent, brutal kind of stories, give us 30 minutes before we get back into the bullshit. It gets a little dark here. God damn it, Warlord. We're going to Las Vegas, where apparently a man was fatally stabbed while a group of A group rescued a woman who was being sex trafficked?
Held her against her own will, and so that's when we proceeded to try and force the guy out of that little shack, which he didn't want to come out. So we all went in there and got him.
Witnesses describe a chaotic scene. A woman heard screaming from inside this shed near East Charleston and Pecos. It happened just after 3:30 Tuesday afternoon. The woman telling witnesses she had been sexually assaulted. This man, who did not wish to give his name, says he felt compelled to help.
I feel it was my job yesterday to defend that lady and make sure that nobody like this is on the streets no more, you know. And that's what happened, you know. I didn't know that the guy was going to die, but it happened, you know.
Andy says he did not see or even know that the man had been stabbed.
This happened after I had left. Everything went after it happened. I went my way, everybody went their way, but I didn't know that the guy had stabbed him at the last minute.
I mean, I was right here cleaning the shop, and then I saw a cop like pulling right here.
Amarani Ringel works at a smoke shop just steps from the scene and says it was a customer who came in to tell her what happened.
They went over there and they got him.
Ringel called
what happened?
A scary situation, but she doesn't worry about her own safety.
Everything was done with good intentions, you know. It's sad that somebody had to pass away.
As for police,
we're also reviewing the surveillance footage.
They say the investigation is just beginning, and they're hoping witnesses will come forward.
The males that came to the female's aid, we do not know who they are at this time. They left prior to our arrival. We're taking steps right now to identify who they are so we can interview them and ascertain everything that occurred.
I have nieces, I have nephews, I have a daughter, and I would hate for that to happen to my family, you know what I mean? So that was only out of a man's perspective. That was only up for us to defend her like that, and that's what happened.
Thanks for watching. Shut up, Lester.
Breaking news.
But how did they know? How did they know she was being trafficked? I have questions. That story was not well done. That one's too dark. I don't want to do that. That's breaking news, but I don't want to do that. Too much. We're gonna go to Colorado, where a cop fatally shot a man, now proven to be unarmed.
Body camera footage shows the moment Aurora police officer Michael Deek saw and shot 37-year-old Kylan Lewis May 23rd. The split-second decision forced a family into grief.
Officer Deek, your reckless decision stole the very essence of our family.
Lewis was a son, brother, father to 2, and husband of 8 years to Andres Lewis.
They took Kylan from me. And everyone who loved him. For no reason.
Lewis's family and their attorneys.
Why the fuck they just getting out with assault rifles? What the fuck is that shit?
Responded to the edited video from Aurora Police in a press conference.
The Aurora Police Department is failing.
Ed Hopkins says he's tired of black men dying at the hands of police.
They shot a man. Hands up. Phone in his hand. The phone got him killed in Aurora.
Police say Lewis was under surveillance as a suspect of an attempted homicide near 48th Avenue and Colorado Boulevard in Denver, May 5th. The body camera video shows 3 officers approached Lewis, including Michael Deek. While going down to kneel, Lewis's hand goes behind his back and he pulls out a cell phone. Deek fires 1 shot. Lewis cries out.
A desperate plea engraved in my heart forever. A haunting reminder of the fear that grips our black community in Aurora.
The video ends after that. The family says justice for them includes prosecuting Officer Deek and using Kylan's memory to promote what they described as a safer and more unbiased Aurora.
We, as the people, demand proof
I'm pretty sure Aurora is where Elijah McClain had the fatal dose of ketamine. Just a young boy walking back from the store, not doing anything.
And not empty promises. That black people's lives truly matter in Aurora and all over this world.
We've reached out to APD for the unedited body camera footage. They shared longer clips, but we're still looking for more raw video. The Lewis family attorneys say they have also not received all the footage and have requested for more as well. They say Aurora police are hiding, quote, the worst parts of the interaction.
Yeah.
The family deserves an accurate understanding of why Kylan was shot. In the newsroom, Janelle Finch, 9 News.
All right. Hey, Janelle. We go out to California, where a USC student will not face charges. Apparently was arrested yesterday for stabbing a homeless man, but now it has been decided that he will not face charges.
We begin with breaking news now here at 11:30. We are learning that 19-year-old USC student will not face charges in the fatal stabbing of a homeless man on Greek Row.
Ivan Gallegos says that he acted in self-defense. KTLA 5's Kimberly Chang live at the courthouse in LA with the breaking details. Kimberly.
Hi, we're standing outside of the courthouse. We were waiting for a court hearing that was set to start later this afternoon, but now we are receiving a statement from the district attorney's office. Take a look. This is from District Attorney George Gascon saying, quote, after careful consideration and a thorough review of all available evidence, we have decided not to pursue charges against USC student Ivan Gallegos. We believe that Mr. Gallegos' actions were driven by a genuine fear for his life and the lives of others. Our heart goes out to the deceased family, friends, and everyone impacted by this tragic incident. Now, as I mentioned, an arraignment was scheduled for 1:30 this afternoon here in downtown LA. 19-year-old USC business student Ivan Gallegos was accused of stabbing a homeless man. But now we know that those charges have been dropped. Dozens of supporters gathered in front of the courtroom to show support for Gallegos, including his mother. Gallegos was arrested, accused of stabbing a man to death during an altercation on USC's Greek Row Monday evening. Police say Gallegos and his two friends confronted a homeless man identified as 27-year-old Xavier Surf, who they witnessed breaking into cars. At some point, Gallegos pulled out a knife and stabbed him multiple times, according to police. Now, Gallegos was arrested and booked on suspicion of murder and was being held on $2 million bail, but again, the DA has just announced that those charges will not be pursued. Now, these are photos of Surf given to the LA Times by his mother. Gallegos did remain at the scene and told investigators that it was self-defense, telling police that Surf told him he had a gun. A former USC student was here with others to support Gallegos. Tell us why you believe that this was self-defense.
Because, well, I can't really speak too much about it, but I arrived right after it happened, and they told me kind of everything that happened, and I was asking questions, like, you know, I wanted to know the story more and more, and from what I was told, it was an act of self-defense.
Tell us what happened.
We don't know what could have happened, and that's the scariest part, and the thing is, with what happened,
what happened?
The homeless man had a gun, because he did say he had a gun.
Did he have a gun?
Putting his hand in the pants that he had a gun. What if he did? And we could have had 3 dead USC students in the USC community, and that would have been very unfortunate and tragic.
Did he, or did he have his hands in his pants?
Now, I did speak with Gallegos' mom just a short while ago. She is waiting outside of the courtroom. I told her that the DA has announced that charges has been dropped. She said that she did not want to comment just yet because she's waiting to speak with attorneys, but she did tell me that
well, not if you're committing a crime and you're like threatening to use a gun.
Live outside downtown Los Angeles. Kimberly Chang, KTLA 5 News.
All right.
That's probably not very cool. Okay, I'm gonna do one more story before the commercial break here. This one is wild. I'm not even going to introduce it.
One pedestrian was killed Saturday morning near the intersection of Stemmons Freeway and Story Lane. Janelle Ford just got a hold of the arrest documents and has more on what she learned.
Yeah, one of the most disturbing details in those court documents is that the suspect in this left the scene of the crash and drove about a mile away with the victim's severed arm in the car. It happened here along this stretch. Police have ID'd the driver as 31-year-old Juan Morgan Munoz, and investigators say he was drunk when he hit and killed the victim. According to court documents after the wreck, Munoz drove to his job at a nearby body shop and waited 30 minutes before finally calling police. The arrest warrant says when officers got there, they found heavy damage to his BMW, including a hole in the windshield and blood and that body part in the passenger seat. Munoz,
the body shop,
he'd hit someone. They say Munoz's speech was slurred, his eyes were glossy, and that he reeked of alcohol. The warrant says he told officers he had only had one shot of tequila at a Hooters in Grand Prairie earlier in the day, but when they had
a Hooters
sobriety test, he failed all of them, and the reading on his breathalyzer test was .179, more than double the legal limit. Once at the jail, he told detention officers that he also had cocaine in his system. We learned Munoz already has 2 prior DWI convictions. The first, a 2018 charge out of New Hampshire that he pled guilty to, and another just last year in Fort Worth. He was actually on probation for the most recent one when this happened. Now Munoz is facing multiple charges. The victim in this hasn't been ID'd yet. And as you mentioned, Chris, the TABC is investigating. They're looking into whether or not any of the alcohol involved in this was served in violation of state law, including serving to someone who appears intoxicated. Back to you.
Amazing. That's it for the gruesome part of the show. We're going to have to take an ad break over on Twitch. When we come back, there's still more crime stories. They're just not, that horrific. Maybe a toddler dies, but that, that's never a big deal. He got trapped in a Tesla. I'm assuming if he died, I would have put that in the headline. Instead of just toddler trapped in a Tesla. Maybe not. Who knows? Travis Scott got arrested. Justin Timberlake got arrested. All that and a lot freaking more on the other side of the break here on the Troll Patrol live. Did we get more high? Is that what needs to happen? I'm getting hungry. Started thinking about am I going to cook something? I have spaghetti, but it could be too late in the evening to eat spaghetti. That red sauce will give you heartburn, and I already feel like I got heartburn. When I got my Dutch oven. Like I use it all the fucking time. I love this fucking thing. So I made pasta in the Dutch oven and drained the pasta and shit, put it to the side, left a little pasta water. I used both hamburger meat and sausage. I got my recipe for my meatballs. Mac and cheese, what I had right before I came on. I had some leftover mac and cheese, and I had some fresh parm on it. So I made my meatballs and then seared them in the Dutch oven, and then made the sauce with the the meat drippings and shit. Combined it all together, put some cheese in it, and stuck that shit in the oven. My meatballs are mwah. I love making Swedish meatballs. I love making Italian meatballs. I got chicken in there. I got half a mind to. I've been making my own French fries a lot lately, and making some like Zaxby sauce, like mayonnaise, ketchup, some chili powder, some Worcestershire sauce. Some garlic powder, mix all that shit together. That's a fantastic fucking fry sauce. So I got a food processor a couple months ago, and it makes perfect potato chips. And I have blue cheese, so I might make blue cheese dressing and put on some freshly fried potato chips. The cold blue cheese melting on the hot potato chips, so fucking good. I don't see any reason for me to get. I deep fry everything. I probably shouldn't. It's probably not good for me. Like, an air fryer is like if you want to make frozen food better. I feel like that's what an air fryer is for. And I cook everything from scratch, so. Everybody back from ad break now? I don't even have a deep fryer. I just pour. I've got a pan that I use, and I miss my old one. Back in the old apartment, I had the most awesome fucking deep frying pan. I loved that thing. It was almost like a wok, and it had a basket that went in it and everything. Now I've just got a big fucking pan. I love frying shit in it. I got chicken. I might fry some chicken fingers and some. That sounds really good. Chicken fingers and I don't know what I'd want. French fries with the fry sauce, or I need to get a new cast iron. But I end up not really using the cast iron for a lot, mainly steaks. That's the main thing I cook in a cast iron, because oh my god, you get such a good sear. If you're gonna cook a steak inside and not on a grill, cast iron's the way to go. And also, you can use them. You can put them in. You can put them in the oven. I mean, I use mine pretty regularly when I had it. Okay, I hope the toddler doesn't die in this story. I tried to avoid the battery dies. The word dies was in the title.
It's going to take my granddaughter to the zoo.
Renee Sanchez says she's a big fan of Tesla, but what happened to her recently changed her mind. That's because Renee tells On Your Side she loaded her 20-month-old granddaughter into her car seat for a trip to the zoo.
And I closed the door, went around the car, get in the front seat, and my car was dead. I could not get in. My phone key wouldn't open it. My card key wouldn't open it.
As On Your Side explained in a recent On Your Side report, when the Tesla battery that operates electronics dies, there's a hidden latch on the driver's side armrest that will unlock the door manually. It's a latch many Tesla owners don't know about.
Oh my God.
In this case, Renee was stuck outside of her Tesla while the toddler was trapped inside, buckled into a car seat. Renee tells On Your Side she had no option but to call 911, which immediately dispatched Scottsdale firefighters.
And when they got here, the first thing they said to me is, to Tesla, we can't get in these cars. And I said,
break the fucking window.
I have to cut my car in half. Just get her out.
Firefighters were forced to break a window with an axe, but they first covered the window with tape to keep glass from falling inside. Meanwhile, Renee's granddaughter sat alone inside the Tesla that was getting hotter and hotter.
So she was okay for the first few minutes, but as soon as the firemen came and all the commotion started and the windows getting broken into, she started crying because she was scared.
A firefighter was able to climb through the window and pull the toddler to safety. They even gave her a little fire hat to calm her.
After I knew she was safe, then the anger, and then all the thoughts of, oh my God, this could have been so much worse.
The 12-volt battery that powers the electronics had died with no warning. Tesla drivers are supposed to get 3 warnings before that happens, But the Tesla service department confirmed to Renee that she didn't get any warnings at all.
That's the thing, when that
Stupid fucking cars.
dead in the water.
On Your Side has learned there is a way for drivers to unlock their cars when they're stuck outside, but it's a complicated series of time-consuming steps involving wires and battery chargers. Again, many Tesla owners and first responders don't even know about it.
They need to educate the first responders because they had no idea. None. They were as much in the dark as I was.
Renee wants to see Tesla add a better option to get into a car with a dead battery. While she's been a big supporter of Tesla, this latest episode has shaken her trust.
So I give Tesla props. When it works, it's great. But when it doesn't, it can be deadly.
Here's the best use of a cast iron skillet. You get your vegetable oil in it. You know, just a little coating. Get it ripping fucking hot. I usually turn it up to like a 6, 7 on the stove. You're gonna get ripping fucking hot. So that's 5, 6, 7 minutes. You're gonna let it heat up. Get like really even heat there. You want to kind of turn it back down to like, you know, your 5 range, your medium on most stoves. You want to throw you a knob of butter in there, and then you slap that fucking steak, that T-bone or that ribeye you got. Ribeye. You sear that fucking steak on both sides. You want to get your oven up to about 450. Stick that cast iron in there in the oven. 4 or 5 minutes. Pull your steak out, throw another knob of butter in there. You want to hit it with some garlic cloves, some fresh thyme, and some parsley. And you butter baste that fucking ribeye. So you got the steak kind of up away from the heat, and you got all your butter down on once again. You kind of hold it sideways, and then you take a spoon and you baste your steak. Baste your steak. Be the best goddamn steak you ever ate. I'm so fucking hungry now. A prison worker in Georgia, and this is like we got 2 back-to-back Georgia stories. A prison worker in Georgia apparently had a relationship with an inmate, which I'm sure is pretty fucking common, right?
There are growing questions surrounding a worker's murder inside a Georgia State prison over the weekend.
Investigators say an inmate managed to get a gun inside Smith State Prison and then killed the kitchen staffer before turning the gun on himself.
Whoa!
Investigators say they believe the inmate and victim had a relationship. Fox 5's Rob DiRienzo has been digging into the details of this very alarming story. Rob? Yeah.
Okay, that was burying the lead. I would hope prison worker may have had relationship with inmate. There was a lot more to that fucking story.
There are growing questions surrounding a worker's murder inside a Georgia State prison over the weekend.
Investigators say an inmate managed to get a gun inside Smith State Prison and then killed the kitchen staffer before turning the gun on himself. Tonight, investigators say they believe the inmate and victim had a relationship. Fox 5's Rob DiRienzo has been digging into the details of this very alarming story. Rob?
Yeah, and the biggest concern tonight is people really aren't sure about how that inmate managed to get his hands on a gun behind bars at one of the state's maximum security prisons and then use it. The Department of Corrections still does not have an explanation for us tonight, but we've since learned that the kitchen employee killed early Sunday morning was just 24 years old. The Georgia Department of Corrections says inmate Jadrakis Hart shot the Aramark food service worker inside Smith State Prison in southeast Georgia early Sunday morning. She's been identified as 24-year-old Orion Grace. The prison says Hart.
Oh, she's cute.
On himself.
That, to me, is shocking to the conscious, and I hope that this is a wake-up call for the Georgia Department of Corrections.
Joshua Schiffer has practiced criminal law in Georgia for 2 decades. He says this incident demonstrates a complete failure by the Department of Corrections leaders.
This institution, Smith, is a notorious institution because it's a high-security institution dealing with some of Georgia's most dangerous and threatening inmates.
Back in October, investigators say an inmate there shanked 42-year-old guard Robert Clark to death from behind.
Wow.
Earlier last year, the GBI charged the prison's warden in a sprawling contraband conspiracy. Hart was serving time for voluntary manslaughter and aggravated battery from a 2015 case out of Carroll County. His earliest release date would have been 2043.
This wasn't a shank or a piece of wood or a razor blade.
Do we know that it was a private prison? We know that Aramark is a private company that supplies things like prisons and schools and shit.
This was a firearm with ammunition, and everybody needs to realize how dangerous this situation was and how indefensible this death is.
The entire state correctional system has been under a years-long federal investigation into allegations of civil rights abuses. The state legislature just formed a committee to review it from top to bottom.
This example is an unfortunate reflection of what's happening in Georgia prisons as a whole.
Just a little while ago, a spokesperson for the prisons told us they believe Hart and Grace had a romantic relationships. They say he did leave behind a suicide note, but there is still no clear answer about
what the note say.
Got into a supermax facility.
You live in sexual anarchy.
Fox 5 News.
All right.
We've been getting shafted on the juicy details on some stories tonight. Keep it in Georgia. A judge in Georgia was arrested at a nightclub.
Atlanta judge is facing multiple charges after being arrested at a Buckhead nightclub early this morning. According to Fulton County jail records, Douglas County probate judge Christina Peterson has been charged with felony willful obstruction of a police officer by using threats or violence and simple battery against a police officer. Right.
That sounds based. A judge at a nightclub committed battery against a police officer. I think I'm in love.
Now it's not clear what led to the charges, but Atlanta police tell us the arrest occurred after a 911 call to Red Martini Restaurant and Lounge on Peachtree Road Northeast.
But now she could have been fucking the dude. They had it was a domestic dispute, and the cops were being like dickheads to the judge. That wouldn't be very cool. But if she's like, I'm a fucking judge and you're trying to push me around, that's kind of badass. We don't have the full story because it just happened last night. Happening just a few hours ago. It happened after I prepared for the show. Travis Scott was arrested in Miami.
Rapper Travis Scott was arrested for disorderly intoxication and trespassing in Miami earlier today.
Police say they were responding.
This has nothing to do with his concert where people got trampled. He just got arrested for disorderly conduct.
To a disturbance on a boat in the Miami Beach Marina. The 33-year-old Grammy Award winner was booked under his real name, Jacques Berman Webster, in the early hours of the morning.
Jacques?
He's since posted bond and been released.
Let's bring in CBS News Miami.
Jacques Berman Webster? That is the widest sounding name. It sounds like some French dude. Oui, Jacques. The fuck?
Posted bond and been released.
Let's bring in CBS News Miami reporter Morgan Reiner for more on this. What more can you tell us about this incident this morning, Morgan?
Oh, well, if he's from New Orleans, that would explain the Frenchness, right?
Said that they were initially called here to this marina where
We're Haitian, yeah.
There was a fight happening on a boat, and when they got here, they found rapper Travis Scott standing on the dock, yelling at people on the boat. At that
Guess that's why he goes by Travis Scott.
sit down. He did initially sit down.
Oh, he's from Canada. They're also French.
Defying those orders, yelling at people on the boat. Now, the person who made the complaint against Scott said that he did not want to file charges against the rapper. He just wanted
Kind of racist of me to say shit, isn't it?
So Miami Beach police said that they told the rapper to go back to his car, to leave the area. At that point, he started walking backwards and yelling obscenities. And guys, you have to remember that this is at the early morning
Now we have to find out.
Black out here. A lot of people live on these yachts behind me. And then behind the camera, it's row after row of residential building. Again, he's yelling in the middle of the night. So he told police officers that one of the security guards in his car waiting for him.
He's from Houston.
Out of the car before he left. Otherwise, there would be a fight. So that security guard gets out of the car and Scott does leave the area. But Miami Beach police said within 5 minutes, Scott was back here at the marina and again defying orders. He was yelling. Miami Beach police said at that point he became erratic, and they arrested him and they brought him to the county jail, which is about 20 minutes away from here. They said that throughout the altercation that he smelled of alcohol, and in fact, in the report, Scott does admit to drinking alcohol, but then admits it's Miami. When Scott was released, the very first thing that he tweeted at 8:30 this morning was LOL. He was released earlier than many people anticipated. In fact, one of the guards at the prison told us that when he was released from the jail, you could see him pacing around, didn't look very happy that no one was there just waiting to pick him up. And that's what we know at this point.
All right, but we don't know what actually started that fight, it sounds like. All right, Morgan Reiner, thank you.
I mean, that's a pretty good excuse. It's Miami. I feel like, did all the cops go, oh, yeah, it's a reason to be drunk. This is not the only musician we're going to talk about getting arrested.
Well, we are learning new details surrounding superstar Justin Timberlake's DWI arrest. It happened early yesterday morning in Sag Harbor, New York. That is a ritzy summer hotspot on the end of Long Island. Police say Timberlake ran a stop sign and then veered out of his lane before they pulled him over. He has pleaded not guilty. He is set to appear in court next month. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin is live in Sag Harbor for us this afternoon. So, Aaron, for the first time, we just got a statement from Timberlake's attorney. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, that's right, Vicki. This is the first time we're hearing from the singer following this incident. His attorney, Ed Burke, who is known locally as the go-to attorney for this area, releasing the following statement saying, quote, I look forward to vigorously defending Mr. Timberlake on these allegations. I will have a lot to say at the appropriate time, but am currently awaiting full discovery from the district attorney's office. Now, we know from court documents that Justin Timberlake failed all of this field sobriety.
Okay, apparently I was wrong that he was not on like Molly and poppers and coke. That was just a hoax. It makes sense that like we wouldn't know what exactly was in the system because they wouldn't have time to do like a toxicology.
Tests that were administered at the scene. We also know from those same documents that he admitted to drinking one martini and that he did
always just one.
Chemical tests. He declined those tests 3 times, which would have precisely have measured his blood alcohol level at.
You got money for an Uber.
Hearing from his attorney.
You got money to get your own personal driver.
Also, worth noting,
a limo service.
Police officer, the arresting officer, was wearing body camera footage at the time of the arrest, and authorities have yet to release that footage.
You know, Aaron, we know that Timberlake is supposed to do a show in Chicago on Friday, just a couple of days away. What do we know about how this potentially impacts his tour? And do you know what a typical punishment on a charge like this is?
I mean, I can't say anything about like bloodshot eyes. My eyes are really red right now.
This was an alleged first offense. This would be considered a misdemeanor.
You smoke a little more.
It's taken very seriously here in the state of New York with potential jail time. But because this is a first offense, because no one was injured associated with this incident, it's unlikely that he would receive jail time, most likely a community service as well as a fine. In terms of the next court hearing that's expected July 26th, when he's expected to be in Poland for the European leg of his tour, although we understand that that court hearing will be virtual.
Okay. NBC News correspondent Aaron McLaughlin. Aaron, thank you so much.
Thanks for watching.
Shut up, Lester. I mean, I've driven on many things. Drinking is not one that I would feel safe doing. I literally have had like one beer or one drink or something at places and then driven. Because like I'm a social drinker. So if I go out someplace like I have a beer, I might nurse that beer all night. Ask a physicist. Good evening. He looked pretty fucked up. I could totally believe that he was on Molly and poppers. And apparently some HIV medication. But that was not true. That was just a rumor. I'm here to bring you the actual news. The news that matters. Shit like McDonald's ending its AI drive-thru. I've seen a lot of people on like TikTok and Twitter complaining about AI drive-thrus. Apparently it's a failure.
McDonald's is pulling the plug on its experimental use of artificial intelligence. The fast food giant was looking to use AI to simplify and expedite its drive-thru experience. The technology was deployed at about 100 U.S. locations, but there were some issues that left customers pretty frustrated. So I want to bring in Nathan Bomey. He's a business reporter for Axios. I heard of another woman who's
I'll make a chicken sandwich.
but he kept on wanting to put bacon on top of it, which honestly does not sound that bad to me at all. That's what you call a happy accident. But clearly we can see why this experiment failed.
Always get bacon.
With McDonald's, and is this the end of AI when it comes to fast food?
Well, first off, we're not going to judge anyone for their food preferences. If they want bacon on their ice cream, that's okay. But I'm pretty sure that's not what they wanted. Yeah, the AI experiment here for McDonald's doesn't seem to have gone that great. All these mistakes that were reported on social media, I think suggest that it does have a long way to go. And, you know, that's probably one reason why McDonald's...
Now, maybe you don't want like McDonald's shitty-ass bacon on your ice cream. You want some good bacon... Maybe dipped in chocolate on your ice cream. That would be fantastic.
McDonald's says they're going to be done with this experiment, but they are saying this is for now. I think that there is a goal to bring this back at some point.
So what it really seemed like as I perused TikTok is that once your order deviated somewhat from the main menu, then AI really had a problem. Like you couldn't say hold the pickles. Things just really started to fall.
So now everyone's frame of reference used to be Twitter and now it's TikTok. Is that what's happened? And then our government has banned TikTok. What a wild time we live in.
Apart. But I wondered if, other chains were using this that maybe had simpler menus and were having more success.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of it. I think one of the challenges for fast food companies is that they have thousands of different combinations. I think I once heard Starbucks has literally billions of potential different drink combinations that you could actually do, based on whatever
bullshit
deciding to get. And so I think that that's one issue. I think another problem here was that the audio would maybe sometimes pick up what someone else was saying. So if someone else in the restaurant said ketchup and then the other person said ice cream, they may have heard both and got confused. Those are the kinds of things that a human probably would understand. That's not what you do. However, we've all been to McDonald's and had an order gone wrong. So there's certainly opportunity there. But I think McDonald's clearly knows this is not ready for prime time.
Yeah, well, it reminded me of the 15-year-old with their very first job, and they got trainee on their name tag. And so they're kind of messing up on the first shift, but they're going to get better. They just got to go back to maybe working on the fries. And AI is being implemented.
AI is being sold by venture capitalists as like the next big thing. And it's not even truly AI. We're not seeing AI. We're seeing like adaptive algorithms and shit. To call it artificial intelligence is kind of wrong. I'm just saying. I think it's a lot of blowhard false promises from a bunch of tech bros. Look at this pity. I don't even think it's improved. They're selling, like, the Atom ruins everything on it, you know. They're selling broken tech. That dog is bigger than the kid. He's so cute. I wonder how old he is. Is it like a 2-year-old puppy? That's not just a pit bull, is it? It's like a pit mixed with something else. A corgi pit bull. I mean, I can see it. Little tail wag. They're gonna be best friends. I will tell you, I fucking love pit bull memes about mauling people, but also like dogs are how you train them. Like if you love a pitty, it'll love you back. If you train it to be a vicious fighter, you get a vicious fighter, and some people aren't good with their puppies. Every pitty I've ever been around has been amazing. Such wonderful, sweet dogs. They can be a little mean. Sparkles had a pitty named Roxy. And if Roxy was ready to go to bed, Roxy wanted her blanket on her a certain way. And I didn't get the blanket on her the way she wanted it. And she started like nibbing at my neck and shit. Oh, this is so funny. It was my fault for not getting her blanket right. It was also very early. Like it was very, like that was one of maybe the first time I ever met Roxy. One of the first few times I'd ever met Sparkles. We became close friends. She'd come over and stay with me. I'd cuddle with her and watch The Office. She liked watching The Office. Pitbull liked watching The Office. Blame that one. But fucking Maynard came in here earlier when Curiouser was here. And he kept acting weird. He kept like very much wanting to get my attention. And I'm like, I don't know what's up with him. And Curiouser was like, does he want you to go in there and turn on the water? And I was like, I'll be damned. I went in there and I turned on the water for him, and that's exactly what he wanted. You're watching on Twitch. Maybe he had too much catnip. Now that they got the plan in there, they can just go hang out in. Watching on Twitch, I'm going to send you over to the Paradigm Shift, who is on with the fucking leftist mafia. Hell yeah. Go ahead, light one up, tip one back. It's all right to have a little fun before you hit the sack. I'm JustinFREAKIN. Who knows when I'll see you again? Probably Sunday night. Maybe sooner. Who knows? Good night, everybody.